Good morning, everyone. Oh, it's afternoon now. It's a bad start. Hello, everybody, and welcome. We've got another great guest webinar for you today. I'm just waiting for everybody else to join in. Got 50, 60 people on the webinar today. I'm not Natalie. If you guys haven't met me before, I'm Scott Johnstone. I'm the Marketing and Communications Manager for BPCA. We've got a really interesting talk for you guys today. It's quite a short talk. I think it's probably only going to take 30 minutes to 45 minutes with a Q&A section at the end. It's a guest webinar with some of our colleagues over at Google and known locally. I want to tell you something new about local service ads, which is a completely new advertising platform on Google. As with all of our webinars, you can ask questions throughout. So there's a Q&A box on your screen somewhere towards the bottom. You can type in your questions and I'll pop back up at the end and ask the guys your questions. Please do pop as many questions in as you can. It's not very often that you'll get a chance to ask these questions to someone from Google. So ask all your Google marketing and advertising based queries today. If you did provide your CPD number when you registered, your points will go on automatically. So there's no need to register them separately, and that's for Basis Prompt and for BPCA registered. If you didn't send us your CPD number when you registered, just pass it over to us in an email, and I'll make sure that those get added for you. I think that's it. There's a chat button at the bottom of your screen. So if something's going wrong, please do pop something in the chat and I'll try and fix it for you. We can't hear you or see you. So if you do want to talk to us, it does need to be through the chat function or with the Q&A box at the bottom. So like I said, this presentation is going to be on local service ads by Google, which is a new product that's being trialed with pest controllers in the UK first. This is not a BPCA endorsement of a product or an advertising service. These guys are literally here to tell you what this new product is and how you guys can use it. As with all marketing tools, it really is a business choice where you decide to put your advertising. So please don't mistake this webinar as BPCA saying that you should invest lots of money into Google advertising, because each company will have a different model for their marketing and it might not be right for you. Okay, I'm just going to get our speakers up now. So I'd like to introduce David from Known Locally and Cathal from Google. Good afternoon, guys. Oh, I think you're on mute still, David.
Is that better?
Perfect. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Oh, good, thank you. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name's David Gibson. I'm the ops manager for Known Locally. So we're an agency who, through our parent company AdPeople, are a premier partner agency with Google, hence why we're very lucky to have Cathal with us today as well. So we specialize in all things local search, and we've been fortunate to be chosen as one of the first two agencies in the UK to help bring local service ads to the market, which is a new service that Google have launched that is extremely powerful. So I've been doing this for 12 years, local search specialist, and excited to provide you and your members with some information.
Thanks. And Cathal, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. So look, I appreciate I have a very difficult Irish name. So if anyone has questions and they feel uncomfortable about saying it, it's like alcohol without the al. And as Scott mentioned, I work for Google, and in particular, I work with alongside the top agencies in the UK when it comes to marketing performance. And we define top agencies not just by their size, but also by their ability to deliver strong returns for their clients. And more specifically, I'm here today because of my relationship with AdPeople, and I work very closely with David on the launch of local services ads in the UK. As we mentioned, I'm fortunate enough to only work with the top partners, and these are the ones that we turn to when we want to try and make something like this work, because we know from their background and their past experiences that they've got great experience in delivering strong returns, particularly for local providers.
Thank you very much, guys. Let's get started. David, if you want to take it away and start showing your screen, that would be great.
Sure will. So here we go.
That's great. So maybe we can just move on to the agenda to start. So I'd like to start by saying that, look, I hope that everyone is doing okay. I know that it's been a very, very weird year for for everyone, but to different degrees. So thank you all for taking the time to be here. It says a huge amount about you, especially giving up time on your valuable lunch breaks. Hopefully the weather wherever you are is less miserable than it is here in Dublin. I'd also like to thank the BPCA for organizing this, particularly Scott and the team, and also obviously David and the Known Locally team. They've been incredible partners over the years. So I'm going to be talking probably for the next kind of 5 to 10 minutes or so, primarily about local services ads that we've already mentioned. But I thought it would be a shame to at least not present some of the things that we know about the pest control industry from how people are searching over the next while. So maybe to start, we can talk about some of these things. So if we move on to the next slide, and then one more, we can see that from the period of time between October to now versus the same period last year, we've seen a 17% increase in the number of people searching for queries that are related to pest control. So it's definitely one of the industries that's been booming over the last while, at least according to the interest that people are expressing on search. We're also seeing that, unsurprisingly, the vast majority of these searches are coming from mobile. So we see this in most industries at this stage, but this is one where it's particularly pronounced. And if we move on to the next slide, we can see that looking over a slightly longer period, I appreciate that a lot of you might be on mobile and this is hard to read, but basically on the left, we have August in 2017, and then on the right, we have October 2020. And you can see that in terms of the searches for growth, for pest control, we can see a large spike that happens at the end of each summer. But over this 3-year period, we can see that interest has grown more than 50%. So it would be a good thing to keep in mind that if you do have digital channels that are working and you are receiving leads, if your leads haven't gone up correspondingly to that, it might be time to think about your digital strategy and whether or not it might be worth considering working with a partner like Known Locally. Okay, and if we move on to the next one, this is one of the things that really stood out to me when I was doing some analysis. So the top line here is the number of people that are searching for pest control topics, and the bottom line is how much people spend on how much it costs when someone clicks on your ad. So the CPC is the cost per click. So on the top line, we can see that the number of queries when people are searching most for pest control happens in July. That's the busiest month of the year in terms of people's queries. Whereas in terms of the costs, we can see that the costs are much higher in November, December, January, and February. And this imbalance is interesting to me because it shows that there's a chance to capture a lot of very efficient leads or very efficient traffic, build up your customer base over the summer months. And then if we move on to the next slide, we can just see a list of the top search terms and how they've been trending over time. We can see that there's been a large growth in silverfish in particular. We can see that bed bugs tend to be fairly flat but have very large spikes over time. And then there's definitely been a large increase in searches related to rats as well. And if we move on to the last one, which is the ones that are rising the most quickly over the last 3 years, again, we see silverfish as one area that's definitely been a lot more interest in. So these are like some very kind of high level overview trends and analysis that we would do. But it's the kind of thing that we were providing on a daily basis to the partners that we work with, like Known Locally. And some of them can be very useful. Obviously, we had to go relatively generic here today. But if those kind of things are of use, I would also recommend checking out Google Trends, which is the tool that you can just Google and you can put in a topic and it will show you how it's been trending over time. And it can be really interesting when it comes to how you think about what kind of topics you want to include on your website, or if you are doing advertising, what you should be maybe emphasizing more than others. But if we go on to the next part and talk a little bit about local services particularly. So if you skip on one more slide. So local service ads are one of the things that I'm most excited about actually at Google. So before I worked for Google, I had my own small businesses where I was reliant on leads primarily through digital channels. So I really understand the difference that better or higher volume of leads can make to a business. And for me, one of the things that's really exciting is that local services ads really puts lots of local providers on a level playing field. So it doesn't matter how big your budgets are or whatever else, it's going to prioritize local providers when the query comes from someone nearby. So local service ads make it easy for local providers to connect with people who search on Google for the service they offer, and they can advertise their services and get leads in specific areas that they choose. And from a customer's perspective, they get to see the business information, read reviews, and get in touch all directly within the ad. And that leads to a higher click-through rate. More people that see the ad will click on it. And then there's also an element that you can see that there's a Google guarantee for people that are advertising with local services ads. So that means that consumers can trust that the services that they're booking are with qualified, trusted professionals and that their satisfaction is backed by us. So if we go on to the next slide, obviously this makes a big difference for customers because first of all, they get local responses, so they get a better search experience. We know that when people are looking for local services, they prefer to call, they prefer to be able to get some immediate advice. So again, this is prioritized with these ads. We know that everyone wants to get the job done right. And we know that when someone is advertising through a local services ad and they have the Google guarantee, it means that they've been vetted to a certain extent. And on the next slide, from your perspective, first of all, it means that you show up on top on search, right? So if someone searches for pest control and in the area that you would be in advertising in, you're going to be at the very, very top of the page, which we know can have a big impact in terms of the number of clicks that you ultimately get. Secondly, you're going to get lots of leads and they're going to be local ones in the areas that you've specified, which hopefully means that they're easier to service and that you can have a more of an impact on your local community. Thirdly, of course, you only pay for the results. So you only pay for the leads that you get. And fourth, we know that times can be very busy. There's going to be weeks or months that you need more leads and other ones that you need less. So you can just pause your ads at any time. And then when I talked a little bit about if we move on to the next slide, I talked a little bit about the Google guarantee and that there's an extra kind of vetting process that comes to being part of a local service advertiser. And that's because we do an extra layer of verification checks that we wouldn't do on all of our Google advertising. And the first one is to ensure that people are a real business. So for example, we would ask for your VAT registration number or your company registration number or even a utilities bill so that we know that it's a real business. The second, depending on the type of local service that you provide, we would ask for a license or a certification to show that you show your skills. And obviously the most relevant one in this case is, for pest control, a servicing membership with the British Pest Control Association, for example. And then lastly, life insurance check, typically related to public liability insurance. And then the last steps are simply that you would set a weekly, an average weekly budget based on the number of leads you want to receive in a given week. So there's a potential that you might spend a little bit more than your average weekly budget, but you'll never spend more than your monthly max. And then your charge for each lead that you receive, and then each lead you receive will count towards your budget. And any lead you receive, once you reach your monthly max, will just be credited back to you to ensure that you never do exceed that monthly charge. And then if we dig a little deeper into the Google Guaranteed Badge, we've seen that in the US, where these type of ads have existed for the last 5 years, we've seen that the Google Guaranteed Badge can be quite effective in terms of helping you build a reputation online, building trust with consumers, and then ultimately having a higher click-through rate and driving better quality leads through. And then lastly, we have a lot of success stories. As I mentioned, these ads have been around for a long time, just not in the UK before. Unfortunately, that means that a lot of our case studies are very US centric right now. But hopefully, someone on the line here can become our first case study in the UK. But the best one, or the most interesting one that I found is this video here. And hopefully this will explain some of the difference that it's made to our local service providers in the US and will have the same impact here in the UK.
With local services by Google, customers connect with small businesses around them. To meet some, we're in Dallas today.
We are 8 members in my family. In running a business along with a big family, it is a challenge sometimes. My name is Salvador. My business is Access Garage Doors. We do everything related to garage doors, gates, and telephone entry systems. It's been 10 years since the last time we advertised. Quality service, quality work spreads out, and that's keeping us on business. When Google calls us and they say, "Hey, Salvador, we think your company is a right fit for us," it's funny to say this, but I gave Google the chance to advertise our company.
Salvador can choose where his ads run and keep things very local.
We don't have to drive an hour away to reach these customers. We can just drive 5 minutes away from our business and at the same time helping the community. It's a win-win. Now we're able to get local customers that know exactly what they want. Google is vouching for us, and customers see that as a Google guarantee that assures customers that the service is going to be 100% what they're looking for, 100% good. Google is bringing quality customers. They just call and say, "Hey, I want your service." That's making a difference for us right now. We have it all on one place. Less time you had to spend looking for a calendar, looking for an address. We can now do communication directly with the customer. We can get the reviews, get their information, do everything directly, make it more personal. The impact is huge. Now we're thinking on expanding, helping the community even more, and even talking about franchise. Why not?
That's great. So obviously, look, we'll be sticking around for the Q&A. I know that digital advertising can be very complex. It can be very difficult. And sometimes we've had bad experiences in the past. So I'd look forward to hearing your questions and showing you why this might be different. I'll pass you over to David. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Cathal. As you mentioned there, it is extremely exciting development for the UK, for local businesses in the UK. It will be a game changer to be able to appear and to dominate your local area. Is massive for small businesses. I've worked exclusively with small businesses, as I say, for 12 years, and I know how much you need to make every pound of marketing spend go, and how much even 1 or 2 extra jobs can make a difference to you. So the ability to appear there and have that Google guarantee in particular is going to be really powerful. What I wanted to do was talk a little bit more about how you can complement that with some traditional local search. I know that the pay-per lead aspect of the LSA service is huge. There is another side to this that you can take advantage of. So I just wanted to take a few minutes just to run through that, and I can answer any questions. It's a massive topic, so I won't be able to cover everything, but I'll do my best to cover the main elements. So one of the common denominators between the local service ads and ranking well in Google, just in an organic sense, is reviews. One of the conditions, if you like, of being eligible for the local service ads will be that your business has existing reviews. There's multiple review platforms out there for various different types. Some of them are integrated into a wider platform. Some of them are independent, and obviously Google being the primary one that we're relevant to. But the point of reviews and why they're so powerful and why it's important in the local service ad service is that they help consumers make good buying choices. So they're an extraordinarily powerful conversion factor, and they're increasing in conversions. Everybody these days says that they're the best at what they do. Everybody writes on their website that they won't be beaten on price, that they won't be beaten on service. But how can consumers honestly differentiate when everybody's saying the same thing. That's the power of reviews, and not just getting one or two, engaging in a continual process of ensuring that consumers and customers are giving you feedback, honest feedback on how you're doing is one of the ways that you can differentiate yourself. Just a few stats here. So 93% of people said that they will look at reviews prior to making a purchase from somebody that they've never dealt with before. And 15%, just as one of the other stats, they just won't look at a business if they don't have any reviews at all. So it really is a powerful tool to help you with your business. The other thing that reviews can help with is search performance, and this is probably a lesser understood element, and can get into some of the crux of Google algorithms and ranking. So I'm not going to go too deep into that. I could happy to answer any questions, but reviews play a huge part in search performance and visibility. So when businesses write, when every business writes that they're the best, how can Google determine who's actually the best? Who should they put at the top of the listings? Google is there for the consumer. It's not ultimately there for the business owner. At the end of the day, they want to give the best result for their consumers. And the reason is, if they give poor results, people aren't going to use Google anymore. So Google's algorithms, their mathematical formulas, have to solve this problem about how we integrate the human opinion about who is the best business into this objective computer-generated world. And one of the ways that they do that is they use the scores and the reviews from their own platform to provide a really strong signal about a business and how popular and authentic and integral and how much integrity a business truly has. So if we just look at some of the local search ranking factors, you'll see certainly on the left-hand side there, local pack. That's the maps results that you and I see when we do a search, particularly off mobile devices. And you'll see that it's currently the second most important factor in achieving a position in those local maps results is a strong and consistent review score. You'll see on the right-hand side, that's pure organic results. So that's the results below the maps pack. You'll see it's important there. Not quite as important, but certainly the reviews in the local pack, since I've started doing this, they've become ever more important. And it's vital, if you do want to appear in those search results, for you to have those a strong review profile. So just on that, I've talked about local profiles, and I just want to give you an overview about why you should really be looking at dominating your local marketplace. So 97% of people will search online for a business. We all know that. 46% of all searches on Google have a local intent. So there's a massive market out there for providing putting your business in front of people when they're looking for a service. And in the bottom right there, you'll see near me searches. So pest control near me, because people want somebody that is local to them, going to get to them quickly. That's increased 200% over the previous 2-year period. So why has this happened? Well, a couple of different reasons, or lots of different reasons, but a couple of powerful ones. Everybody's using mobiles these days. The rise in mobile device usage has grown exponentially. On the right there, you'll see that mobile and tablets, I would refer to a tablet as a semi-mobile device. That accounts for over 50% of market share now. But actually, Google have become much more sophisticated in how they can determine what is a local search. So they know where you're searching from. They know your IP address. They know your geographic location. So they're able to integrate that into their search parameters and provide a consumer with a better result as to who's actually local to them. So if I do a search here, I'm going to get a different result from somebody who searches from Birmingham or Ipswich or Leicester. So what does that look like in terms of what is local search? Well, you'll be familiar, I'm sure, with local maps. This is what a maps result looks like. I'm in Altrincham in Cheshire. So if I do pest control near me, you'll see that there are 3 results. So the local service ads would appear above these maps results, which is another reason why they're so powerful. But the maps results here, you'll see a couple of things here. So pest control near me, pest control Altrincham. A couple of things I'd like to point out here. So pest control near me, you'll see one of the top 3 results there is Young's Pest Control. Now, if you can see it on the map, it might be difficult, but you'll see that Young's Pest Control are actually a bit further away from me than some of the competition, but they're still appearing in the top 3. And for me, that begs the question, why? And I then look down and I can see that the review count for Young's Pest Control, they've got 69 reviews and an average of 4.3. So for me, that's a clear indicator about the power of reviews. So just again, reinforcing that. What you'll also see is that I don't get even though I've done the same search and I did these 20 seconds apart, I don't get the same results for pest control near me versus pest control Altrincham. And that's really an indication that Google's algorithms are really sophisticated and they pick up on the specifics in a search query. So it's really important that you are able to understand that and optimize for a variety of different phrases if you want to really take advantage. So how does it work? Well, obviously you've got to claim something, your own business space on Google. That's called Google My Business. That is your personal business assets that you have to go through a verification process with. But it's not enough just to claim it. It's really important if you want to get some return from this and you want to get some calls, you really need to try and get into those top 3, 4, 5 positions of visibility. 24% of people click the top result, 13.5% the second, 10% the third. So there's a diminishing return if you're outside of those top results. So something for you to think about. Very quickly, this is a minefield, but how does Google determine local ranking? Well, if you go to Google and type the search phrase in, improve my local rank on Google, there is a help center that Google provide. There is a document that will take you through this. But essentially it's relevance, distance, prominence. Relevance, how well does the search match your Google My Business profile in particular. Distance is how far away from the person that's doing the search does your business appear. And prominence is the place where you can have the most influence and causes the most problems for customers, we find. It's how well known a business is. And that details things like your off-page profile, how many times you're mentioned on other websites, how good your website is. Google want quick websites. They want to give great customer experiences. And all of that falls into prominence. So this is just a review of that. So your overall review, obviously we've got the local service ads that are going to be primary. If you want to be found in the maps as well, you need to register a GMB page and optimize it. Google My Business, apologies. You need to make sure that your review generation process is robust and continuous. And you also need to ensure that you've got a fantastic website, really mobile responsive, really quick to use, full of lots of relevant content that is unique to you. Don't copy content from somebody else. And you need to make sure that your site has got a broad digital footprint across the various platforms that are available for that. So this really is the triumvirate of local search for you. Local service ads, prominence on Google Maps, and getting a good review count, continuous review count for that reassurance for your potential local customers. So that's it, really. We're obviously proud to be a premier partner with Google. We're proud to be able to bring this, the new local service ads to you right now. We are, as I say, we're 1 or 2 in the UK that's doing this right now. So what we'd like to offer people within your association is the chance just to find out. So if you are eligible for the ads, so you don't need to do anything. But if you do want to find out whether or not it is something that you'd be eligible for, we'd like to help you to navigate that process.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, David. Thank you so much, Cathal. We've had loads of questions, honestly, so we probably need to go straight into that. Can you just stop sharing your screen for me, and I'll pull up some of the questions.
Sure.
We've answered a couple of them as we've been going through, I think. So one for Cathal, was the data that you presented earlier, that was UK based data, wasn't it, at the start of your presentation?
Yep.
Perfect. And we've had a couple of questions about how you get the Google guarantee, whether it costs you money, what the criteria is for that.
Sure. So as I mentioned, the criteria will be slightly different depending on the local service you're providing. So there might be slightly different specifications in terms of licensing or other things. But the process usually takes between 1 and 2 weeks to be verified, and it doesn't cost anything. Obviously, the ads themselves, it's a cost per lead basis, but getting verified isn't anything that comes with a cost. No.
Awesome, thank you. That's a bit clearer, thanks. Somebody's asked the difference between pay-per-click and pay-per-lead, and is that a big distinction between Google Ads and Google Local Service Ads, so the traditional ad platform, versus what we already have?
So it's a little bit different, right? So the cost per click is, if you imagine you Google for pest control in Manchester, and you see an ad and you click it, usually that brings you through to a landing page or their website or something like that. So in that case, you've paid for someone to visit your website. And then the idea is that a certain number of those will go on to become customers or leads, I should say. So it's a slight kind of abstraction from it. Whereas in this one, because it's a call directly, it only counts as a lead if they call your number, you answer, and then the phone call lasts more than 30 seconds. So which means that it's a pretty good sign of intent that it's probably a real lead as opposed to just website traffic. So it is quite a big difference. There are other possibilities to try and work on a cost per lead basis. But yeah, that would be the difference, that you're not paying for a click that may not lead to a lead. You're clicking only when they have leads.
Perfect, thank you. That is really useful to make that distinction. You spoke a little bit about Google My Business earlier, and honestly, if anybody who's listening today isn't on Google My Business and doesn't have a free page set up there, you definitely should. But can you just explain exactly what the differences are between Google My Business and the new local service ads?
Sure. Yeah, I will briefly, and then I think I'll also pass that one over to David, who can probably do a very good answer for this. But it's the difference between kind of paid and non-paid options. So certainly when you search for something, there are results that you see that are organic or that people haven't paid for. They appear at the top. Maybe they're the most prominent in the area or whatever it might be. And then there are also people that decide that it's worth the extra traffic to try and pay some premium to drive people to their website or to drive leads as an additional option. So Google My Business is definitely there, and there will definitely be some organic traffic that will come through that. This is an option to basically supercharge that and choose to pay extra for more leads. I think David would probably have a pretty good, some good extra context there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So a Google My Business page is your opportunity to claim your personal space on Google for your business entity. Obviously, you have your websites which supports that, but your Google My Business page is really an opportunity to feed Google with lots of really powerful information to help them understand who you are, where you're located, the service areas that you are prepared to cover, and the types of service that you've got. It's kind of a hub for all of your individual business information, and it feeds directly into the Google Maps system. So having that verified business, so that to verify a page just very quickly, you have to go on to the Google My Business platform, you have to state who you are, and Google will send you a postcard, a physical postcard to your address, and on that postcard there will be a code. So it's a little bit like a more physical version of the Google guarantee. It's just Google providing that second layer of information that they know that you are who you say you are and that you are located where you say you are. So it gives you, it's also something that feeds into the knowledge panel. So I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but if you were to search for a particular brand, so David's Pest Control, Altrincham, then on the right-hand side of Google, typically when they recognize your brand, and the Google My Business page can help that, you have a panel that appears on the right-hand side of the search page with your phone number, with your opening hours, with your reviews, with some Q&As. So it's a really powerful platform. And when people use that and click through from that page, you don't pay for clicks. So it's a really strong ally to the local service ads and indeed to pay-per-click, but it's one part of that whole ecosphere.
Thanks, David. That was really helpful. We've got a couple of questions along the same sort of themes. So pest control sector is mainly made up of SMEs with just a few national companies, as is BPCA membership. So there's a lot of questions here. What about the self-employed pest control businesses and the small businesses? Are they going to just be out-competed for those local service ad spaces because they have far larger marketing spends?
So look, this was intended to try and exactly solve that problem. So while there will always be someone that might figure out how to game the system, the intention is obviously to try and do right by local, like genuinely local service providers. So for example, like, you know, having to show where your business actually is as part of the verification process should help stop doing that. So one of a lot of the people that act on a national basis, a lot of those people are lead aggregators. They might be based in one place, but collecting leads for providers all over the country. It'll be very hard for them to compete in that regard. So while there may always be bad actors and there may be people that figure out some way to do that, the intention isn't to serve those customers in that way. And the intention is to try and put the power back in local providers. So there may well be instances like that appear, but over time we'll figure it out and make it better and better to avoid that situation.
I think just on that, if I may also jump in, it's one of the really good things that Google have done on the organic side as well. That again, the whole intention of the way that they've done this is to stop the big players in any one market dominating a local area and to give some prominence to people, because they know that they want their customers, the searchers, want somebody that is local to them. So yeah, it's a continuation of that. I think it's really powerful. It's, you know, it's going to be great for local businesses.
Thanks, guys. We've got a question here. So a lot of pest control companies obviously diversify the sort of products that they can offer. So a lot of people have asked about things such as cleaning, drain surveys, and other areas of their business that they might like to use local service ads for. Is this just for pest control now, or are there other services that can be offered through local service ads? And do you need separate accounts for different services?
Yeah, so you won't need to create separate accounts. And one of the advantages, obviously, of working with someone like AdPeople is they can take care of all this complexity for you. But because there are licensing certifications that might be different, for example, with pest control versus plumbers, there will be probably an additional check needed, for example, on that. So to give you an overview, at the moment, there's appliance repair, carpet cleaning, electricians, garage door repair, house cleaning, HVAC repair, junk removal, lawn care, movers, window repair, window cleaning, water damage, tree services, roofers, plumbers, and pest control. They're the lists. They are the broad categories that are available in the UK at the moment.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. And that brings us on to another question that has popped up a lot. Do you have to be a Google partner and to go with an ad agency to take up Google local service ads, or can you do it on your own?
So you can do it on your own if you want. It's completely your choice, and it's the same way with all digital advertising. I would say that agencies have a a very large and important role to play because, well, first of all, they probably have a lot of similar companies. So they'll have done a lot of the learnings and they'll have figured a lot of that stuff out. Obviously, that's their specific area of expertise. So some people will choose to do this themselves. Some people will choose to leave it to the experts so they can focus on, their own areas of their own domain expertise. It's completely people's choice.
Thank you for that. Yeah, sorry, David. I know that.
No, I was just going to, just back that up. I think agencies provide an efficiency for small businesses. It's many small businesses have got enough on their plates that adding in an extra 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 hours a month of focusing on something where they can outsource that and let somebody else take that headache. That's very much how we kind of position ourselves. We're partners for small businesses in that process and have efficiencies accordingly. But yeah, absolutely, it's like anything. You can do all of this yourself, or you can choose to outsource parts of it or none of it. So it's absolutely.
Yeah. I think certainly my own experience running my own small business, I tried to do it myself, and it's not that it didn't work, but eventually I used a third party, and it ended up being cost positive actually, because they made not just what I was doing more efficient, but obviously they generated more leads for me. So I decided in the end that it was worth it. But it's for everyone to do their own calculus on that.
Yeah, I'll add to that as somebody who has done online advertising myself for many businesses and used ad agencies. Then finding the right ad agency is very important. And, you should ask all the tough questions, and you can do it on your own. And it doesn't have to be hugely time consuming, but you'll get out of it as much as you put in. Thanks both of you for that one. There is a couple of extra questions here. So particularly around reviews, and I appreciate that we could have a whole half-hour webinar, maybe longer, on reviews themselves. But for people that don't have any Google reviews or have reviews with very few stars, what can people do to start improving their reviews?
Do you want me to take this one, Cathal?
Go for it, David. Yeah.
Ask for them. It's a really simple process. People just don't ask for them. There's lots of tips and tricks you can use. So if you really wanted to, we don't necessarily endorse it, but if you leave a review, you might get it's like anything else. If you leave a review, you might get a percentage off your next job that you do with them or something like that. But really, you shouldn't be engaging in that. You really do just need to ask for them. A couple of tips and tricks is send them a link. Have a link, a short link, like a bit.ly link to your review profile on an email that you send. So after you've done a job for somebody, and maybe even if you're sending them the invoice or you're sending them a thank you note to say thank you for paying the invoice, you've just got to ask. People won't necessarily take 5-10 minutes out of their day to proactively think of doing that. But if you do get prompted, you will get enough of a response. It is something that if you don't ask, you don't get, kind of thing. The other thing is just on the number of stars. It's not always as tragic as you think to get a 2 or 3 star type review. Quite often, the way that you handle those reviews and the way that you respond to them says more about you as a business than maybe even the person leaving the review. We know that there are various nefarious practices going on out there, but the way that you handle a review and the way that you respond to that person can often be just as powerful as receiving a 5-star review. So yeah, my top tips are: ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. But make sure you engage with people, and don't just engage with the positive ones. Don't just engage with the negative ones. On the Google review platform, you can respond to reviews. So it's a really good way to provide people with a remote view about how you handle your customer service on a wider level.
Yeah, and I would add in there just that it's so important to ask for reviews, because otherwise what will happen is the people that do leave reviews, the ones that do take the time to go out of their way, will probably be the few disgruntled people that are left, that are for whatever reason, are annoyed enough to go and seek out that process. So you get a very imbalanced view of how customers have been viewing your business. But thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And another one, especially for pest control companies, if you see fraudulent reviews which are there because they're vindictive and they don't like what you're doing, make sure that you challenge them nice and early so people can have a look into those reviews and make sure that they are genuine customers. Because quite often there are ways in which you can get those sort of reviews off your website. So if you've got bad reviews, and it's because somebody's being a little bit vindictive, then you know, talk to whoever's site that review is on.
Yeah, absolutely. Google have got a review challenge process. So if there is anything personal or outright slanderous or wrong, you can challenge that. So yeah, I'd actively encourage people to engage and to proactively engage with their review process.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. I'm just going to ask one more question because I know that people need to dip off. There's a lot of people here who have said that we talked a little bit about gaming the system and people not necessarily going through the processes that they should be on Google advertising. What would your recommendation be if you think that somebody is gaming the system or presenting themselves as being local to an area if they're not?
Cathal?
Yeah, so I think that there's usually an option to try and flag those kinds of activities. I mean, I don't know how responsive it always is in getting them fixed, but I would say just to point it out, and particularly if you're working with if you are working with a third party like AdPeople that has a direct connection to Google, obviously that feedback will make its way back very efficiently as well.
Yeah, we have a really strong relationship, so there is a feedback loop there. What I would say, just to kind of maybe flip that a little bit, is I wouldn't spend. Inevitably, we have customers who spend more time focusing on the negative than the positive. I'd try and approach it from what can I do to promote myself in my area rather than worrying too much about what somebody else is doing, because you could spend a lot. You'd be much better off using that time to promote yourself. And with, as Cathal alluded to before, the whole point of local service ads is to even that playing field a little bit and to provide that local intent. And you know, it's a machine learning process, so over time Google will catch on when people are trying to do that. So yeah, there's a couple of different things. There's a feedback loop, but my take on all of it is focus on what you can do, not what somebody else is doing, and you'll have a much better overall result for your individual business.
That's probably very good advice for life in general, David.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you both. Thank you, David. Thank you, Cathal. We've had loads of other questions about specific things about Known Locally and the services they offer. So I will be sending around a feedback survey and it will have David's details on it. So if you want to ask him how much, what the return's like, all those questions, go directly to Known Locally and ask them. Thank you, everybody that asked questions. Thank you again to our fantastic speakers. Remember, BPCA has a very small marketing team, but we're always here to support members as well. So if you do have a general question about your marketing, online or offline, let us know, and I'm sure we'll be able to help you in some shape or form. But that's it for now. So thank you very much, guys, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you all. Really appreciate it. Bye now.